All right, what's up, everybody? How's it going out there? Welcome to the Quickstart webinar. Coach Noah Harris here. I hope you are having an amazing week. Hope you had a great week since the last time we talked. If you're new to the call, welcome. You're in the right place. We do this webinar every single Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. We start right at the top of the hour. Special guest on the call here today. We've got Michael Glassby in the building. Man, oh man, what a treat. Yeah, go ahead, everyone. Say hi in the chat box. I'm just trying to get my sweater on. I'm like, this is going to be a really cool, informative, something a little bit different. So if you're logging on for the first time, every single Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, we practice private money lending best practices, fundamentals, foundations, things like this. We practice the elevator pitch. We use this time to stay sharp. Right? We use this time to practice, stay sharp, so that when we're inside Private Money Club, when we're networking, when we're at live events like the Private Money Club Money Tank event that's happening this weekend, we're on our game. We're on our game. So Chris Naugle, Stephen said, hey, you don't have to do the quick start this week. You know, Money Tank is coming up. We've got the Money Tank event. There's going to be networking tonight at the hotel where a lot of the guests are staying. This time tomorrow, early Friday morning, we're going to be kicking things off. No need to do a quick start. This is what they're telling me. And I'm saying we absolutely have to do the quick start webinar. This is the most important time to do the quick start webinar, because if we are going to be networking, if we are going to be talking to borrowers, we're going to be talking to lenders, we got to stay sharp. So I don't know, is there anyone that's on the call right now who is actually in transit to the Money Tank event? Is there anyone that's in their car right now headed to Charlotte? Is there anyone that's at the airport right now on a layover headed to Charlotte? Just arrived, Mike said. Okay, cool. I love it. I love it. So this is the absolute best, most important quick start webinar maybe that we've ever done. Maybe. We'll see. The new launch of the platform, Private Money Club, rolled out last night. Has anyone logged in and checked it out yet? It looks awesome. It looks awesome. So more on that to come from the Private Money Club team. We try to make this as active as possible, like for you, for everyone that's on the call. Like, participation is really, really important. So go ahead and say hi, say where you're from. Are you a borrower? Are you a lender? Type it in the chat box. Let's figure it out. Let's see. Click on here. All right, cool. Welcome, everybody. Hey, Andrew. Hey, Edwin. What's going on? Grant. We got John on the call here from Buffalo. Love to see it. Mark, what's going on? Nick Lucas in the house. Nick Lucas is a part of our private money of the Private Money Club team. If you have any questions about classes, enrollments, memberships, things like of that nature, Nick Lucas can absolutely help. He'll throw up links and you can click on the link and get the information that you need. Hey, Lisa, I love it. Newbie from Georgia. That's fantastic. I'm one of your neighbors. I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. What's going on? Hello from Sacramento. Hey, Angela, Rachel, everyone else. All right, cool. I'm going to bring on a special guest. We're going to start with a special guest, then we're going to get into some things. And then, as always, we will practice our elevator pitch. That's what we do every single week on this call. But I'm going to start with our guest, Mike, because his time is so valuable. So I'm going to introduce my friend here. Before I do that, I'm just going to, I had to copy and paste his bio because it's so extensive. It's like what hasn't Michael Glassby done, right? So I'll read it here. Mike, what's going on, man?
There
You're
we
muted.
go. I'm here.
All
Can
right.
you hear me now? Okay. So we just got into Charlotte and cracked open the laptop and everything's like on one screen. I'm used to dealing with like three screens, but I'm here now, man. I'm here. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, we're doing great. Hey, look, so Mike is a good friend of mine. We've become friends through attending events just like the Money Tank event and through networking. And he's gonna give some really great value today. And he's also one of our speakers at the Money Tank event that's happening this weekend in Charlotte. So if you are going, whether it's in person or virtually, you will get to meet Mike this weekend. But if you don't know who Michael Glassby is, I got his bio right there because it's so much. I hate to forget something. This guy's like on fire with everything. It's been a while since we've talked, but while serving as a Special Forces Green Beret, Mike got his start in real estate investing. This was where his love for the finance and business found its perfect match. Not only has he co-founded a team of over 100 agents, he's also owned and managed over 130 rental units and served as the CFO of a private equity firm for 2 years. With almost 8 years of commercial real estate investing experience as a broker, lender, certified CCIM instructor, he now operates a fractional CFO to real estate investors, sharing his insights and strategies for business success for investors in any industry. So this is super cool to have Mike on here. And Mike, I know this is like really off the cuff, and maybe you don't know what to expect or what questions we're going to ask you or things like that. But I really just want to take a moment and talk about how you help real estate investors. And obviously, this is a community of private money lenders. How do
Mhm.
you help? Like, what advice would you give to someone from a CFO standpoint, right? Because that's what you help people do in regards to private money lending, whether it's borrowing or lending. I know I just threw a lot at you there, but
Yeah. Yeah, no worries, no worries. I mean, that's a great question because oftentimes as clients come up to me, that's where the majority of their problems lie. Questions of, hey, I've done 20 flips, but why do I still feel broke? Or, hey, I've done all of this, but on paper, I'm actually losing money. And at the end of the day, the number one tip that I really give everybody is make sure that you understand how the investor is performing by looking at their finances. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Just because somebody's done 20 flips doesn't mean they're good at flipping, right? They could have easily lost money on each one of them. And if we have all of this hard-earned money that we've earned and now we're going to lend it out to an investor, we want to make sure that, yeah, the deal has to make sense, but what about this person's track record, right? Oftentimes we can see how they manage their money, and it's not just by the flip, but also how they run it in their business. So, hey, I made $20,000 off flip. Great. But what did I do with that 20,000 when it was done? Did I blow it all off by borrowing more money? And now I'm really robbing Peter to pay Paul with other private lenders? Right? We want to know those questions. So I would say the number one tip is for the borrowers, make sure you have your house in order financially. But for the lenders, make sure you understand a little bit more past just the project itself.
that's such good advice. And I know we're diving into this. And on this call, Mike, we have folks that are on this Quick Start webinar every single week. They're part of Private Money Club. They've taken classes with me, and one of the things that we harp on tremendously is it's not just about the asset, but also the operator,
Yes.
the person that you're working with, the person that you're lending to. And I liked how you talked about having your house in order. If you're a borrower, what does it look like to have your house in order as a borrower? Like, what are some tips that you would, because we got people coming to Money Tank in Charlotte,
Yep.
and there's going to be a lot of great relationships made. And it's one thing to be having a cocktail and exchange a business card, and it's another to have, like, the next step would be having a meeting. Like, hey, after Charlotte, like, let's set aside 30 minutes where I can learn more about you and your business. What can a borrower do to be prepared for that conversation specifically? Like, what should they be working on?
Yeah, 100%. If you guys are here, if you guys are listening to Noah, then you already know what the paperwork looks like, right? Make sure the paperwork is good. I know that we're going to cover a lot of that at the event this weekend as well. So the paperwork is one part. Obviously, like Noah, you just said, and as we're networking, personality is another big piece of it because and it doesn't mean that you have to have a robust personality. It just means that whoever you're dealing with, you want to make sure there's some level of connection. But now, if you're looking from my point of view, in my eyes, when we're talking about financial house in order, I want to know essentially when you borrow the money, how are you handling it? Okay. Is it going in a separate bank account only for this project? Are you borrowing money from three or four people and all of the money is going to be in one project? Are you going to be taking out money based on draws or you just want to take it all up front? I want to know these things because it's going to really help me understand what to expect when I hand over 20,000, 50,000, $100,000. So being able to have that and articulate it. And guys, if you don't have it ironed out perfectly, it's okay. It's okay because many of these lenders know that this may be your first, second, or third really crack at flipping properties. But having a general idea of how you're going to manage that money can go a long way when speaking with the lenders.
I know Christy and I have a a Google Drive folder that's ready at any given moment.
Mhm.
And so whether if we were walking into a small bank and we were talking to the banker, a small local community bank or credit union, or if we're talking to a private money lender and that private money lender says, we need to I'd love to be able to take a look at your past projects.
Yeah.
Personal financial statements are one thing, but I like past projects, I feel like, and you kind of talked a little bit about this. And by the way, guys, if you're just logging in for the first time, we are talking with Michael Glaspie. I'm going to post his bio here in the chat box. Michael Glaspie is one of our speakers at the Money Tank event here in Charlotte. One of the things that I've really tried to do a better job at as an investor and teaching my students is, if you're talking to someone, like you said earlier, if they've done 20 deals, great, but we don't know if that means that they're successful. And having all of the properties that you've completed over the years, as you complete them, having them in some sort of spreadsheet, some sort
Yep.
of REO template, like what type of advice would you give to a lender if I was a borrower and you were in the lender and I was like, "Oh, Mike, I've done 50 deals, so you can trust me." What type of evidence would you want to see to be able to verify that?
That's a really great question. So one, just like you said, that REO template, right? A real estate owns template. Basically, all the deals that you ever done. I want to see them all, honestly, not just flips. If you own rentals, let me see it. Because that all of that kind of builds credibility to your understanding of real estate. Now, some of them I may actually request a closing disclosure for. Let me see if the numbers that you're reporting is accurate, right? And so that could be something simple. If you have it in a Google or an Excel spreadsheet, you can just kind of hyperlink it. You're good to go. Now, that's basically the premise of what I'm going to be looking for. The next thing I'm going to look for as a lender is I'm going to want to see how the properties have performed. And so what I mean by that is how much money went in versus how much money came out. Was there a large margin, meaning, hey, I put in 10,000, but I got 50,000 back, and therefore there's a lot of room for error, meaning you can still make a couple mistakes and my money's okay? Or were these very thin margins? I put in 10,000, but I only got 15,000 back. And if I understand kind of just what your trajectory has been over the past couple of years or past couple of deals, well, then I now know either I'm operating with slim margins or I'm operating with big margins. I can now increase the rate I'm demanding or whatever the case is. But that's the extra layer of what I would be looking for.
Awesome. And then from like, sometimes there's like, I get questions a lot in Accelerator about this as far as like taxes, like
Yeah, yeah.
people are like, should I have an LLC for my lending business? Should I, like, what forms might I need? Like, how, are you someone that could take a look at their big picture and say, hey, these are some ideas that something that we might want to do?
100%. Yeah. So the conversation, you bring up a good point. Obviously, for everybody's in here, you probably have spoken to a CPA. You probably have spoken to an attorney before. An attorney versus a CPA, they're going to have different perspectives, different viewpoints on an LLC. One's going to be protection, one's going to be taxes. But realistically or holistically, there's a lot more involved with that. We have to understand what's your business model, what's your time commitment, because there are going to be some tax advantages that may make sense for you that you can qualify for, while others it's not just as easy as throwing a blanket over it. So we need to be more specific. But absolutely, that's part of what we do. We look at the investors or the entrepreneur's full kind of profile and make sure that it's optimized.
I love it. I love it. And this weekend at Money Tank, what are some of the things that you're going to be hitting?
Oh man, we're gonna
What's your agenda look like?
it's going to be intense. All right, it's going to be intense. Now we're going to cover a lot of stuff though. I'm going to share three of my clients' case studies that had some very drastic results. I mean, people who are facing lawsuits over $10 million. We're going to talk about people who had to basically shut their doors and restart a whole new business. And all of these things are real life situations that happen. But ultimately, if we just knew the right questions to ask from the beginning, we could have avoided it all. So we're really going to harp in on what is the right question. What are the right things that us as entrepreneurs, as borrowers, as lenders, what do we really know to make sure that we're prepared? So when we do make this money, more importantly, we can keep the money that we're making.
What type of, I'm about to open it up. Guys, this is cool. We don't have too many guests on this webinar very often. Like lots of times we just get into practice and elevator pitches and things like that and talking about the everyday happenings of Private Money Club. So this is a really cool moment to talk with someone who has a ton of experience, not just investing for themselves, but helping investors maximize returns and really treat this like a business. Are there any questions that you have for Michael Glaspie? And from a real estate question to CFO type of questions, please type it in the chat box. let us know. Let's take advantage of it. Mike is one of our speakers this weekend at the Private Money Club Money Tank event. Mike's in his hotel room right now in Charlotte. So if
Yep.
this tonight, he's going to be downstairs networking with everyone that's also staying at the same place. And then we kick things off at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Dean has a question here. He says, what is the best way to get started? I guess, Dean, to get started doing what? Like working with Mike, lending, real estate investing? Give us a little context around that. And that, I think that would help a little bit. Katie says, I was actually going to ask about setting up an LLC and taxes. We are brand new and have no experience yet.
Okay. So, Katie, this is my kind of follow-up question to you. Are you actually investing, doing the projects yourself, or are you lending? What does that look like for you? Now, setting up an LLC, here's a quick 40,000-foot view. When you guys see me this weekend, we can go into much more depth if we need to. The idea behind the LLC, guys, is really protection, separating liability. So if you're doing something that has a lot of exposure, for example, a flip. Okay, so Katie, you said planning on lending with this little impossible. Okay. So your lending is not going to have as much exposure as a flip would, right? With the flip, I got to have the seller, I got to have the contractor, I got to have the appraiser, all of these different pieces for exposure. With lending, it's pretty much you and the actual investor. All right. So the LLC separating liability piece may not be as prominent for you, but still may be worth it. Now, the second piece to this is the taxation. You treating your lending as a business, now we get to operate and take advantage of a lot more tax deductions that we wouldn't be able to if you just treated it as a personal loan or put in your own personal name. LLC is not necessarily the only way to do that. You can make it legitimate through sole proprietorships and things of that nature. Okay, so the answer is you don't necessarily need it right now to get started. I'm going to be honest, I always recommend an LLC. But as I mentioned, it's not necessarily the right decision, but I always recommend it because you get the liability and liability protection and the tax savings.
And this weekend at Money Tank event, Katie, I don't know if you're able to attend virtually or in person, or if you're like, hey, I'm brand new, I don't even know what's going on. At our event this weekend, it's Friday and Saturday in Charlotte. There's also a virtual option that you can attend. We do have someone from a company called Corporate Capital. Brent Carlson is there, and he is like the LLC expert that Private Money Club recommends that their clients use to get those types of things set up and rocking and rolling. All right, which is good. All right, here's a good question. I'm interested in your opinion on this, Mike, and I'll give mine. Julie says, hey, I'm new to this. As a new lender, is it better to make smaller loans or one large loan to a vetted lendee?
One large loan or smaller loans? That's a great question. I would look at it as that the size of the loan in comparison to how much capital you have. All right. So 10,000 versus $100,000, that part itself is not necessarily relevant. What I'm concerned with, how much cash do you actually have in the bank? So if you're brand new, I would say try to keep it at around 10 to 20% of your capital, something that you're comfortable lending at so you can kind of break the ground and you're not risking your nest egg. All right. Now, if you have $1 million or $2 million in the bank, then $100,000 is not going to be, it's not going to impact you, right? It's still 10% or less. That's my approach to really getting your feet wet as you start to outline your process.
It could be also, IRA funds and things like that, where it's not
Mhm.
necessarily money that is, you could consider super liquid. Maybe that
Right.
number comes up in percentage, right, based on your comfortability. I would say, Julie, a lot of it comes down to, here's how I kind of look at it. A person can diversify their loans into different time amounts, different types of vehicles. Like you could do some short-term transactional funding. You could do some fix and flips with timelines of 6 months or less, fix and flips of 12 months or less. You could do a longer term, 2, 3, 4, 5 year type of loans on like rental properties and things like that, depending. So imagine if you had some money to work with and you say, okay, I'm gonna take a little bit of this and I'm gonna put it into some passive income properties. So every single month I'm getting that mailbox money. And that's 9%, 10%. It's predictable. It's coming all the time. And then I'm gonna take some of this money here. I'm gonna use it for short-term transactional funding where I might be making 3 to 4% every single time I lend the funds. And those might be 30, 60-day type increments. And then I might be doing some fix and flips and say, okay, I'm gonna do a fix and flip over here, and I'm gonna be making 12% on my money, and that's gonna be over, annualized interest over a 6 to 12 month period. So you can diversify out your loans to whatever you're comfortable with. I think the big thing is the operator. The deals are out there, but it's really understanding what questions to ask. That's kind of what we talk about in our accelerator coaching program. What questions to ask, how to underwrite not just a deal, but the person. Because at the end of the day, you can have the best deal in the world, but if that person doesn't have the contractors to get started on the work and to get the work completed, if they don't have a real estate agents to get the houses sold quickly, that can lead to some headaches, right?
100%.
Let's see, any other questions here? Mike, fellow SF Bubba here. Okay. What's an SF Bubba?
That's a special forces
Okay.
Brad. Another SF
Okay.
guy we got in the house. Yeah.
I figured that must be. Getting started as a lender. How do you evaluate and conduct risk analysis on the project? Do you have a clear go, no go criteria? That's a great question.
That's an awesome question, Josh. And yes, so if I'm lending, I always have a very strict go, no go criteria. And I often recommend that for my clients as well. No go, or that whole criteria box, if you will, that buy box, if you will, you should look at a couple different factors. So what I always look at is what is the margin on the property? We can look at it a dollar amount or a percentage amount. I want to know how much wiggle room do we have that I know my investment is safe. I'm also looking at location. Now, for me personally, one of my criteria is I only lend in areas that I invest in. Because if I need to go and snatch up that property and foreclose on that property, it's great. It's in my backyard. I'm good to go. I already have the team in place, right? So that's another section for me. Another piece of it is once you really understand, I highly recommend that all lenders here continue to go to these coaching sessions with Noah and with everybody else over at PMC, because it's really important that you understand the asset, that you understand real estate investing to some degree, right? So I can tell you right now, in one of the areas I invest, if the property was built before 1920, most likely it's historical, meaning now there's a whole bunch of other red tape that it has to go through. So if my borrower doesn't have experience with historic properties, I'm not touching it, right? Different things like I don't want to own it because there's other areas there. So your go, no go should be very distinct to you, but I want you to think through everything that would be like, nope, that's not me. I don't like that. I don't know about that. Write all of those down so you actually have a list that you can go back and forth with when you're asking questions to your borrower and the property.
Cool. Love it, love it. Sam has a question here. I'm new to the group. What are the pros and cons of going with a private lender versus a bank? What do you think, Mike?
Pro is you have a lot less red tape with the private lender. All right. The bank is going to ask for a lot of paperwork. I don't really, if it's a conventional bank, it's going to have a lot of paperwork. If it's a hard money lender, which is still a financial institution, it's still more paperwork. So going through private money relationship, obviously they're still going to ask for certain things of that nature, but typically it's a lot less red tape. You can probably get your money faster, and you might be able to speak to that better, know about the speed of delivery of the funds.
Yeah, those are.
Honestly, yeah. I'll go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, speed is important, especially if you're as a real estate investor, because lots of times you're telling the sellers that you can close quickly, right? So,
Yeah.
hard money lenders, what's a pro about a hard money lender is hard money lenders, that's what they do. They want to give you
Right.
their money and they have deep pockets. There's no amount that's really too much in many cases for them to look at doing the project. The problem though is, at least in my experience, Sam, when I first got started, I was using a lot of hard money lenders to fund our fix and flip deals. And the hard money lenders would say, okay, great, Noah, we're going to give you 80% of the purchase price. And then we're going to give you the money for the renovations, but that's going to become in the form of draws. So after you spend 20 grand, you submit your invoices. We'll send out someone to inspect to make sure the work was done, that you have to pay for, by the way, and then we'll reimburse you your funds. Okay. So think about this, when a person's just getting started, and let's say you're buying in the $200,000 price range, like that's the purchase price, 200 grand. That means they're going to lend 160,000. So I got to have at least 40 grand to bring to the table as a down payment. And that's not including the fees, right? So pros and cons, hard money versus private money. For me, a lot of that comes down to cost too. Hard money lending, I'm seeing higher rates request for more fees than I would working with my private money lenders, right? So that's one thing. But the big chunks of cash, if you don't have it, you're never going to be able to get anywhere. And keep in
Yeah.
mind, you also have to have the liquidity to be able to make the payments, make the interest payments, and put the costs up front for the renovation projects until you get reimbursed. So if your goal is to do multiple projects at the same time, like maybe you want to run two at a time, if you have a goal of doing 6, 8, 10 projects a year, then there's going to be some overlap there. So how much cash do you have on hand? And you're going to need cash on hand if you work with hard money lenders. With private money lenders, for the right deal, if the deal makes sense, right? Doesn't mean that every time I borrow funds, I ask the private money lender, hey, you can lend up to a certain amount. And that usually includes the purchase price and the repair cost. That's like the total. And I could say you can lend up to this amount. And keep in mind that if I say if the purchase price and the repair cost is here, the value of the property when it's completed is going to be way up here. So there's a lot of equity in there, right? So if you're just getting started and you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars, private money lending might be the route to go if you're looking to take on more than one property. Do you have the availability to put down payments to help you get those hard money loans closed and have the reserves? If you do, great, go with hard money until you build up your private money lender relationships.
Yeah, I
Right?
couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's definitely cost you more to do hard money. But like you said, one of the pros is it's unlimited funds. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, we got time for a couple more questions. We're gonna do 4 more minutes with Mike. I only have him for 30 minutes. He's just got checked into his hotel. I'm sure he has a routine that he wants to go through. Get in the gym. He's got to like pump some iron so that the networking event looks good, feels good, right? So we don't want to take up too much more of your time. I do have a question here. It's kind of a really crappy situation, and they said, "Hey, what situations do you have when dealing with fraudulent borrower that has defaulted on the loan? It's over leverage. Foreclosure isn't going to really help me much." Because of over leverage, then the collateral of the property is set to be demolished for a bunch of code violations, essentially, right? So that's a horrible situation, and I hate to say a lot of that due diligence up front would have come in handy. Hindsight 2020, I would say definitely hire an attorney if you haven't already, and I would do an asset search on that person, and I would try to put as many liens on as much as I possibly could outside of the property that you are involved in. I don't know, Mike, if you have any other. I
no,
wouldn't call that
that's
advice, but I've heard my wife.
all right. We're not lawyers, okay? Let's be
Yeah.
very clear here. But no, you bring up a really good point, Noah. So, it is a bad situation that you're in. As I mentioned, one of my clients' stories or case studies that I'll be talking about this weekend, he's in a very similar situation, but in the tune of about $10 million. Unfortunately, you signed some paperwork, whatever that was, when you lended over the money, or you didn't. But whatever is in the confines of that paperwork is what most states are going to hold up for law, right? Because it was an investment. Most attorneys are going to say, and depending on the paperwork, hey, you knew the inherent risks of the investment. So now with this one property that was treated as collateral, I don't know if the borrower personally guaranteed it or not. If they personally guaranteed it, again, speak with the lawyer, but now you have something to pursue those personal assets. But like Noah said, if they didn't personal guarantee it, well, now we can search to see if there are other assets that we may be able to tack on liens to and things of that nature. But this is why it's really important. It's really important that the due diligence and the paperwork is really tight up front for situations like this. And just as a reminder to everybody, understand that you can be the best lender in the world, best personality. You can be the best operator in the world, best personality, honest, have integrity. And you know what can happen? Life. Murphy's Law can happen. And the entire investment could potentially go under. So we need to be mentally prepared for these things and just make sure that we're talking it through with our parties, our counterparties, and that the paperwork is nice and tight. But I'd have to agree with Noah. We're going to have to bring an attorney in to see if there is legally anything that you can actually try to go after to recoup your investment.
Jeremy says, how do you get started as a real estate lender? The best advice that I could give to someone who's like, I want to learn how to be a real estate lender is to join Private Money Club. And I'm going to talk about that here in a few minutes. I'll share with you how to get access to the Private Money Club, what it is, how it helps people, things like that. If you are not in Private Money Club, every single person, all 112 people, 111 people on this call right now should be a member of Private Money Club in some way, shape, or form. You can create a free profile. You can go premium, get a premium membership that has more bells and whistles and connect and communication advantages to connecting with people. I will talk about that in a minute. But if you're on this call and you are someone that's like, hey, I want to borrow money from people instead of institutions to fund my real estate deals, join Private Money Club. If you're on this call and you're like, hey, I am a person, I see the value in lending my money at a nice interest rate and having it secured properly by real estate that's worth much more, join Private Money Club. Hang tight. I'll tell you all about what that is here in just a moment. Couple other questions I just want to make sure, because some of this stuff might be over my head, and if Mike's gone, I'm going to be screwed. So let me just make sure there's no other questions here for Mike. I have someone here that says, is it a good idea to invest in notes? I love the idea of investing in notes. Notes are, if you're thinking about becoming a private money lender, here's the thing with private money. As a private money lender, you are essentially creating the note. If you just, some people say, hey, I don't necessarily want to create the note, but I'd like to go buy a note. That sounds like a good idea to me, right? And you can see if the note's performing. Mike, any input on that?
I love notes as well, guys. The note investing game is a way. So as a reminder, we all know real estate goes through markets, guys. I'm a firm believer that there's always money to be made in real estate. I don't care what the cycle is. You may need to change your strategy though. So sometimes flips work, sometimes wholesales do, sometimes note investing does. Several of my clients invest in notes. I'm going to give you a secret. If you guys want to learn note investing, you guys need to look up Kevin Shortell. All right. He's a big part of the community. He was at the last Raleigh Money Tank event. He was just there kind of passing by. But if you guys look him up, Noah might be able to introduce you to him. That's what he does. He
We
is
had him
the
on last
note
week.
king. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Kevin
definitely hit him
Shortell.
up.
Yeah, Kevin Shortell will be at Money Tank. He was on last week's
Perfect.
episode of Quickstart, so you can try to find a link to that and watch the last week's edition. And it was cool. Like Kevin went over an example last week where he helped someone buy a note that was their investment was $18,000, and with I don't want to fudge the numbers too bad, but I believe it was 18 grand. And for $18,000, they bought an existing note that it was 72 payments and it was $450 a payment. So for 18 grand, they bought 72 payments of $450 a pop, and that's like 32,000. So do you like investing in notes? The idea of investing 18 grand knowing I'm going to get 32,000 sounds pretty cool to me, right? All right, man, Mike, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. I'm so looking forward to seeing you in Charlotte. We're going to get in pretty late tonight, but we will be there bright and early at the racetrack Friday morning. So I might see you in the lobby tonight. If not, for sure, I'll definitely see you Friday.
Perfect, man. I always appreciate it, man. I'm excited to see you too.
Do you have any links or anything if someone wanted to connect with you that you could put in the chat box if someone wanted to schedule a call with you or learn more about how you help people or pick up one of your books or something?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to give you guys the email. My team monitors this email. So if you guys wanted to throw something in there, you guys can see it really quickly. You guys wanted to follow us on the good old Instagram, I'll throw that in there. That's the Instagram link there. And I'm going to give you our office phone number as well. So you guys can just text that number as well if you guys want to connect. Obviously, this is an amazing group. Private Money Club, the Money Tank always brings amazing people together, guys. You guys are asking some great questions. I know we didn't get to all of them, but please make sure that you write them down and send them over to Noah because he is going to definitely get you taken care of.
Absolutely. Cool. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you, man. Tell the family, and we'll see you. We'll see you in 24.
All right. Sounds good, man.
All right. Later.
Breaking news, this just in. Are you sick of having your money lying around not doing anything? Well, we've got the solution for you. PrivateMoneyClub.com. Back to you, Chris.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks, Mike, for joining in. I'm going to dive into this and kind of get back to our normal routine here, but it is good to learn from experts like Mike when we have the opportunity to do so. But welcome, if you're on this call for the very first time, welcome to the Quickstart webinar. So we do this every single Thursday at 1 o'clock. And forgive me, I might skip through some of these slides because we do have time restraints and things like that. You know, anyone, as I get into elevator pitches and we share case studies and we start doing Q&As and things like this, please know that I am not an attorney. I am not an accountant. I am not licensed really in anything. I'm just a real estate investor. I own a small real estate investment company here in Columbia, South Carolina. For over a decade, my wife and I are almost exclusive to using private money lending to fund our real estate fix and flips. All right. So if you need any legal advice, go out and get the experts. The very first thing, I have a new class that started this week. I teach a course for the Private Money Club. It's called the Accelerator Program. In the Accelerator Program, the very first thing that we talk about and that we teach is to surround yourself with the right business professionals. If you want to get great at borrowing money, I see a lot of people in there. How do I get started borrowing money? How do I get started? Well, you got to get in the community, right? That would help if you're a member of Private Money Club. That's going to help. It's also going to help if you have some education, you have someone showing you what to do, how to do it, like I do for my Accelerator students. And if you're interested in taking a class, Nick can put the link in the chat box there of where to sign up and how to schedule some one-on-one time. But really, to get great at this, you got to surround yourself with a team. If you feel like, man, I don't know, I don't have any credibility, I'm brand new to this, you know, I have a career in something else for the last 10, 15, 20 years, real estate's kind of new, but this is what I want to do. You got to get a team together. Who's going to be your real estate attorney? Who's going to be conducting your closings? Who's going to be the real estate agent that you use to sell your properties? Who's going to be the contractor that you're going to use to fix up your fix and flips? Who's going to be the property management company handling your rental properties? Get this figured out in advance. Get your questions and set up answered by the right person. Get set up by the right people so that when you start having conversations with folks, that's already figured out. As a lender, you should be asking borrowers these questions. Who's your real estate? Who's going to do the closing? Who's doing the title work? Who's doing the title insurance? Who's doing the repairs to the property? We got to figure out who the team is, not just who the borrower is. All right. And so this is what we work on. This is what we build, and 100% track record. That's the goal, right? So every single time you hop on one of these calls on Thursdays, we keep this real estate. Participation is encouraged. You guys are doing a great job of that. I got the PMC team in the chat. Nick Lucas is part of the PMC team. And if you need any help enrolling in anything or have a question or, gosh, I really want to take the virtual money tank. How can I attend the virtual money tank from my own home? Nick can put the link in the chat box there. We've got a promo code floating around that can help you if you need some help with the cost to do that. It's just a couple $100. All experience levels are welcome. And I'm going to cruise through these slides. We usually hit this a little longer, but I only got like 20 minutes left. We end here at the top of the hour. So when we think of private money, just so we're all on the same page, when we think of a private money lender, here's what we're thinking. It's a person, okay? Like because I'm clarifying this because if you Google right now, private money lender, there's going to be all sorts of stuff that pops up. It's probably going to be some sort of fund, right? Like, and private money lender can fall under the umbrella of just a lender that's just not traditional, right? Not a traditional lender. So there's lots of different private money lender entities. When I talk about private money lending, I'm talking about lending and borrowing to Nick Lucas. I'm talking about lending and borrowing to Joel. I'm talking about lending and borrowing to Herbert. All right. I'm talking about working with a person. And that's the big difference. So let's talk about this. Where's the best place to start? In the Private Money Club. If you are a Private Money Club Premier member, type it in the chat box. Let us know. If you are a Premier member with Private Money Club, type it in the chat box. Big news, man. That platform is fire. That thing is looking fresh. Have you been on it yet? We just got it revamped. All the new bells and whistles. I don't even know what half of it does yet. Super exciting. Private Money Club is a platform where people can meet, borrowers and lenders can meet. Set up time to talk about each other. You can post deals, interact. There's education, there's courses, there's classes that you can take, articles that you can read, so on and so forth. So it's a great resource. Every single person on this call, all 104 people, you should at least have a free membership. So if you're brand new to this call, type brand new in the chat box. If you're brand new, type brand new in the chat box. If you're brand new, Lisa, go get a free membership. Alex, free membership. Colleen, free membership. Ty, free membership. Every single person should have a membership just to get the ball rolling, just to see, poke your head in there and see let someone like Nick Lucas show you around. All right. So I'm going to invite Nick. Nick, if you can, post the link there so people can set up their free account to get set up with a free profile. Now, when you go in and you create your profile, make sure you add a picture. Make sure that you write up your profile, like talk about yourself, right? Like if you're going to be interacting and you're going to be in Private Money Club, make sure you look like a person and sound like a real person. And it's not just like, filled out with like 2 or 3 word sentences or something like that, right? Like do a good job filling out your profile. How you do anything is how you do everything. Every single week we work on credibility, clarity, confidence, and we work on making this community great. When Stephen Nagy asked me to start teaching this class, this webinar, I was like, well, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do? And he said, all I care about is that people are learning about private money. I was like, done. That's easy, right? So get the most out of it. Here's some action steps. So I'm going to show this now. I'll show this at the end. I believe every single person that hops on the call should take action one way, shape, form, or another. So here's a bunch of things that you could do to keep momentum going. Number 1, create your free PMC profile. Schedule a blueprint call. Ilias, I would schedule a call with Nick. Nick will put the link in there or put it up above. Click on it, schedule some time to talk to the team and see if this is a good fit for you. If you are a Premier member already, there's different courses within Private Money Club that you can access. My accelerator course is filled up right now. We are enrolling for the next year. This weekend, we have an event in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you can attend live, get there. If you can't attend live, we've got a virtual viewing option. My wife is teaching a mobile home investing course. This is actually scheduled to start January 5th. So if you're like me, you're like her, you're like Warren Buffett, and you think mobile homes are a great option for a real estate investor, Christy's course starts January 5th. It's called the Mobile Home Take Action Challenge. And we also have some boots on the ground tours where you can walk through properties, estimate repairs with experienced real estate investors. And that's happening in Atlanta, Georgia with the Mike and Mike team. That's December 7th and 8th. Woo, it's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. I'm getting tired. I need another coffee. All right, here we go. All right, accelerator coaching, a little information about it. You guys know what this is about. You've been on the call before. It's a great class. Those of you who have taken it will tell you. If you want to expedite your growth, collapse time frames, and really dive into what we talk about here on these webinars, but deeper and for a longer period. This is a 4-week course. Twice a week for 4 weeks, we dive in for a couple hours teaching how to borrow and lend money. All right, cool. Here we go. So I got some slides here. These are from previous webinars here, but I think we should just dive into practicing our elevator pitches because this is really important. This is what's going on here this weekend. If you're going to be talking and networking with people, we got to practice our elevator pitches, right? So we're going to go over these slides here as we do every single week. Every single week we cover these slides. Why? Because this is the foundation, right? This is the foundation. These are the fundamentals. Someone asked earlier, how do I get private money? Like, well, you got to work on it. You got to meet people. But once you meet people, like we can put you in the right rooms, right? We can put you in Private Money Club. We can put you in the right event, the right room. But what do you say to people? What do you say? And a big part of this is understanding. One of the things I'm going to talk about at the Money Tank event this weekend is really diving into helping people create, realize, and be able to communicate what your niche is. All right. So I love the show Shark Tank. Anybody else like the show Shark Tank? If you're a fan of the show Shark Tank, in the chat box, type your favorite shark. Who's your favorite shark? Let's see. You can learn so much about a person by who their favorite shark is. Oh, Lee loves Mr. Wonderful. Oh, I know Lee. I know exactly. And I learned so much about you, right? Alex, Damien, love it. Abby, Mark, Cuban, yeah, big fan too of everyone. Lori, yeah, the real estate, yep, Kevin. All right, cool. So everyone's got their favorites, right? When you're watching Shark Tank and essentially they're coming on to give their elevator pitches, their presentations, we know right away who's getting the funds, right? We know right away. If you can have the greatest story, the greatest why, and the greatest, you can tell the best story about how you came up with your product. But at some point, Mr. Wonderful is going to go, okay, this all sounds great, but how much does it cost? What are sales? What were sales last year? What are projected sales? What's the cost per advertising to get this into the hands of the consumer? They want to know the numbers, right? So it's the same thing when we're talking about our real estate investing business. So if you're on this call and you're a borrower and you're thinking about using private lending, you got to figure out, what does it look like to work with you? What types of properties do you buy? Do you focus on single family houses? Do you focus on manufactured homes? Do you focus on new builds? Do you focus on co-sharing opportunities? What types of, I thought it was Damon. I was like, I know it wasn't Damon. What types of properties do you focus on? What's your niche? And then once you've got that dialed in, what's the zip code? What's the neighborhood? What's the area where you're investing? Why do you like that area? Why do you like that market? Why do you like that street? It can get even nichier. You can get down to, we buy houses between 1,200 square feet and 2,000 square feet with rehab budgets of less than 50,000. We buy houses at least minimum of 3 bedrooms, minimum of 2 bathrooms, 2,000 square feet or less with 50,000 in estimated repairs. Figure out what you're going to be doing with folks' money before you start asking for it. And then once you have that dialed in, once you have that figured out, then we start coming up with the price points. If you're an experienced real estate investor already and you already kind of have like a sweet spot, what does that look like? How much are you buying your houses for? As an example, for the longest time here in Columbia, South Carolina, we would say, hey, we buy houses for $100,000, give or take. Like, that's our sweet spot. And in the neighborhoods where we're buying these properties, on average, it's right around $50,000 in renovations. And if we buy for 100, we put 50 into it, then most likely we're going to be turning around and putting them on the market for 225, 250,000. And that's our business model. That's our pitch. That's our niche, right? Single family houses, 3 bedrooms or more, 2 bathrooms or more, 1,000 to 2,000 square feet that we can purchase for 100,000, put 50 into them. And a person, here it is, a person's $150,000 is secured by an asset worth $250,000, just like a bank. So we haven't really talked too much about that on this call here. Like, lots of times when we practice the elevator, we just dive into what is a private money loan, right? But as the conversations get deeper and people start interacting with you and wanting to know about your business model, this is your time to shine. So before you start going off and asking for funds, what does it look like to work with you? So once you have an idea of what it looks like to work with you and everything's going good, and people are like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, those numbers make sense. Now, when you have a deal and it's a deal that's your sweet spot, it's a deal that, was comparable to what you're telling people it looks like to work with you. When you present that opportunity, there's no surprises, right? If I tell Abby, hey, Abby, what we do is we buy houses for 100, we put 50 into them. Typical loan amounts are 150,000. Give or take, and a lender's $150,000 is then secured by a house that's worth 225 or 250,000, right? Just like a bank would want. And Abby's gonna say, okay, that's fantastic, right? That makes sense. So then when I have an opportunity, I'm gonna present it to her. She's gonna be like, wow, this is exactly what Noah said, right? The last thing you want to do is have a conversation with someone and say, hey, this is what we do. We buy houses in Orlando, Florida. We put this much into them, we fix them, and and be like, oh, that's fantastic. And then you go and present a deal in St. Louis, Missouri. Oh, this house is in St. Louis, Missouri. The numbers are different, but that you just lost credibility there, because someone's going to be like, well, wait a minute, I thought you bought in Orlando. Now you're in St. Louis and the numbers are different, right? You can't be all over the place. Dial it in, create your niche, right? And then build up from there. I hope this helps. Okay? If this is good stuff, say, oh yeah. If I were to give a homework assignment right now, I'd say, hey, if you haven't already figured it out yet, figure out your niche. And by the way, lenders, if you're on this call, you should be asking about the niche. Hey, what's your niche? Tell me about your business, right? I know this deal over here is whatever. I want to know about you. Like, what have your last 10 deals looked like? Oh, what we do, and it's what's cool in Private Money Club, you'll see all different kinds of people with niches. I know Joel has a very specific niche. I've seen investors on here who have a very specific exit strategy with their real estate investments, right? I've seen people on here that they buy at a certain price, they put this much into them, and they turn around and they rent them out Section 8. And that's their niche. Like, that's all they focus on. And they're really, really good at that. I've seen people that are like, hey, we flip manufactured homes on land, and that's our niche, and we're really, really good at that. So what are you great at, right? What are you great at? And those little words, just like a bank, are going to come in handy, whether you're borrowing or lending. If you're borrowing, you're going to treat it as if you're working with a bank by providing similar documents and that a bank would want. And if you are a lender, then you're going to treat it like you're a bank by requiring those same documents, right, to make sure that the loan is secured. And also figure out what your interest rates are. If I'm a borrower, I want to make sure, hey, I've got a range here. I don't like to say I pay 15%, I pay 12%. For the longest time I did that, and my wife would be like, stop telling people that we pay that much. I go, but we do. And she goes, yeah, but what if they would be happy with less? You know, it's just, so I was like, you're right. I'm going to do a range. So I used to say, yeah, we pay 10%. Yeah, we pay 12%. Now I give a range, right? Each loan opportunity is unique. So if you're a borrower, figure out what your range is going to be when it comes to working with you, right? So if I'm talking to someone, my sweet spot right now, my bread and butter is single family fix and flip, single family fix and flip. So a lot of our loans are 12 months or less, annualized interest. And I'll tell folks, we pay anywhere from 8 to 12% annualized interest. Each loan opportunity is unique. And what I found is that naturally with the optimism bias, people start thinking, oh, 12%, that's what I'm going to get, right? And they get excited, as they should, right? Yeah, Joel has his specialty right there. Thanks, Joel. That was like perfect timing, right? I love it. So figure out your money. If you're a lender, figure out how much it's going to be to work with you. And I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, we always charge 14%. We charge 15%. I charge 15%. I'd have a range. I'd say, hey, look, each loan opportunity is unique. Anywhere from 10 to 15%, just depends, right? But the idea here is having a plan in place and having and drumming up conversations so that you can build the relationships. This is the core four. That's what I call it. This is by no means everything that a person needs to know or have to do a deal. But this is from a communication standpoint, this is really important because in your elevator pitch, as you're having conversations with people, you're letting them know that, hey, this is not a handshake deal. This is not willy-nilly. This is not verbal, right? Everything that we do, just like a bank. Like, look, if you borrow money from a bank, and if you get a mortgage, they're going to want to have a mortgage paperwork, or they're going to want a deed of trust, promissory note outlining the terms of the loan. That's your contract, right? They're going to want to have you on the hook. If they're lending to the LLC, they're going to want to make sure that you are on the hook as well, personal guarantee, and they're going to want to make sure that there's insurance in case there's a fire or something, right? So just like a bank would want promissory note, mortgage, or deed of trust, personal guarantee, and we want insurance. We want to be listed on the insurance as the lost payee, just like a bank. Now that's not everything, okay? There's more to it. But for conversation purposes, all we're trying to do is just get a meeting. Remember, this is elevator pitch talk, right? This is casual conversation. If a person is serious and they want to start asking questions about more, then we schedule time with them. Right? We hop on the calendar for 30 minutes and we actually talk about our business, how we do things, and we see if it's a good fit, right? And then most important at the end, kind of put a bow on it, all the documents are prepared and recorded by a licensed professional. What makes real estate great? What makes private money lending great? The collateral. Loans are secured, they're recorded, right? A person can't sell or refinance a property without making sure that you're taken care of. It's on record. Right? But don't just trust your borrower to record it. Everything's done by the attorney, the title company, the real estate professional that's handling the closing. Okay. And it really is that simple, right? It's about practice. And that's why every single week, Thursdays at 1:00, we hop on here, we talk about it, we get better and better and better and better. And hopefully your elevator pitch, your business model, explaining your niche, all of these things start to really roll off the tip of your tongue, like just as if you were telling somebody your phone number, right? That's what we're going to get good at. And if you feel like you need help with this, the accelerator class is there for you. You know, it's well worth it, well worth the investment. People have taken it will tell you the same. I'm telling you right now, if you're a lender, and because the problem is a lot of people who are lenders, you don't have a real estate background. Right? Maybe you're a doctor, you're a dental hygienist, you're a nurse, you work at a chemical plant, you work on the oil rigs. Like, I don't know what you do for a living, but it's probably not flipping houses, but you see the value in putting your money to work, having it secured by real estate, making great interest. Educate yourself in what questions to ask, what documents you need to have so that you can spot good lenders and bad lenders, so that you can spot good deals and deals that aren't so good. right? And that's what we do in the accelerator program that Nick just highlighted there. And if you're interested in taking a class with me, you can click the link that Nick Lucas just posted and schedule some one-on-one time. Hope this helps. All right, again, here I would suggest making a move. At a minimum, bust out your phones. If this is your first time on this call, bust out your phone and say, hey, Siri, go ahead and schedule next week's Quickstart webinar at 1 o'clock with Noah Harris. Done, right? Done. Set a reminder. If you don't have a PMC profile yet, set one up. It's free. Why wouldn't you do that? Allow one of the PMC team members to give you a tour. And if you like what you see and you're serious about becoming a better borrower, a better lender, then leapfrog and join premium membership is well worth it. Well worth it. This is how earlier someone asked, hey, how do I go about private money lending? How do I go about, working with people and maybe not doing like a big syndication type of thing, right? Like I just want to flip one house at a time or two houses. PMC is the place to be, man. PMC is the place to be. So this is what I do. Now there's a new platform just rolled out last night. And some of these screenshots are from the old platform. This is what I do. So if I have a deal and I need funding, I don't have a lender yet lined up, I will post the deal in Private Money Club in the deal section, and then I will also post it in the forum. I'll hop on a couple webinars that Private Money Club does for their premier members where they allow you to share your deals via Zoom and in front of their audience. And then I direct people to my website. If they go to my website, then you don't need a website. So this is what I do. I'll direct them to my website, has a video about working with our company, has what it's like working as a lender with us and things like that. And I invite people to hop on my calendar. And the calendar stays booked. When I post deals, the calendar stays booked. It's crazy. It's and I feel like for those of you who have ever tried to work with private money lenders outside of Private Money Club, it can feel like an uphill battle because you're trying to tell your friends, your family members, your former coworkers, you're like, hey, did you know you could make this and have a secret? And they look at you like you got 8 heads. They're like, what are you talking about? Right? In Private Money Club, it's like, it's a community where you're fishing in a pond where everyone bites. Everyone in here is interested in what we have to offer. Everyone is interested in putting their money to work as a lender or interested in using people and not banks to fund their real estate deals. So we all kind of work together. And the only way for a person to really get a taste for it is to go and test drive it themselves. That's why I'm highly recommending joining as at least a free member to see what Private Money Club is all about. And then after they get on my calendar, we have either a Zoom call, a phone call, or if they're local, we can meet face to face, whatever the person prefers, and then it's off to the races, right? So I hope this helps. This is how I'm leveraging everything, how I leverage the community in my real estate investing business. I like to think that my lenders are just as grateful for me as I am for them. Because again, this is a win-win relationship and a win-win community that Chris Naugle and the team has set up here with Private Money Club. So with that being said, guys, if you have any questions at all, you would like to connect with a PMC team member to learn more, to get that free membership, click on the link that Nick Lucas has posted. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, we'll put the link in the comment section below so you can click on it and get the information that you need. For everyone that's going to Charlotte, I cannot wait to see you. I will see you bright and early Friday morning. With that being said, guys, happy investing and signing off. We will see one another next week, at least on the next Quickstart webinar call. If this was a good call, let me see a big oh yeah in the chat box. You guys like this? You like having guests? Come on, was Mike helpful? And okay, cool. All right, love it. Hey, Cameron, what's up, man? All right, cool. Hey, yep, you bet, Katie. All right, guys, have a great weekend. I'll see you on the next one.